What did your parents teach you about life, money, and your career? Maybe something like, go to school, study hard, get a good job, and your life will be set. Sounds familiar, right? But here's the thing. This advice isn't as great as it seems. It's the same advice most parents and teachers in the US give their kids, but it's missing something really important. One more question. What did you actually learn about making money in school? If your answer is not much or nothing at all, you're not alone. That's the experience for most of us. The reality is we were never really taught the truth about building wealth. Families who are already wealthy pass that knowledge down quietly to the next generation, behind closed doors. So what should the rest of us do? Simple. Pick up Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and hear all the things nobody ever taught us when we were growing up. I'm Alex, and in the next 20 minutes, I'm going to walk you through life-changing money lessons that Robert's rich dad taught him. Lessons his poor dad never understood. Let's get started. Chapter 1. Rich people don't work for money. Picture this. It's the 1950s in Hawaii. A 9-year-old boy named Robert Kiyosaki and his best friend, Mike, are both obsessed with one question. How do you become rich? After a failed attempt at making their own coins by melting down empty toothpaste tubes, they realized they needed to ask an expert for guidance. First, Robert went to his dad, highly educated, working a government job, but always struggling with money. His advice was predictable. Go to school, get good grades, and find a safe, secure job. Sounds familiar, right? It's the same advice so many of us grew up hearing. But hidden behind this thinking is a dangerous trap, the rat race. You work hard all your life, wait for that next promotion, hope your salary will finally be enough, but even when you earn more, somehow there's never much left. The government takes its cut. Mortgages, car payments, and credit card bills eat up the rest, and your boss ends up with the best hours of your day. Robert's poor dad was basically saying, work for someone else until you retire. And that's what society teaches too. A job equals security, and security equals wealth. But here's the truth. A job may keep you out of poverty, but it doesn't build real wealth. So Robert turned to Mike's dad, who didn't have a college degree, but had money, owned businesses, and understood how money really works. He was Robert's rich dad. But rich dad didn't just give away his secrets. He made a deal. If you work in my store for 10 cents an hour, I'll teach you about money as we go. Robert agreed. He worked hard, hours on end. But after a few weeks, his frustration hit a boiling point. I'm being exploited. I'm not getting paid much, and I haven't learned anything, he protested. That's when Rich Dad shared his first real lesson, with a smile. Life will always push you around. If you only work for money, you'll never get rich. Robert was confused, so Rich Dad explained the core lesson. Rich people don't work for money. So if rich people don't work for money, where does their money come from? Let's find out in the next chapter. Chapter 2. Educate yourself about finances, identify real assets, and invest in them. In the last chapter, Rich Dad said, rich people don't work for money. So that leaves us with one big question. Where does their money actually come from? The answer is simple. Rich people make their money work for them. They don't just blow every paycheck on eating out, shopping, or streaming subscriptions. Instead, they take their money and invest it in assets. And those assets keep making them money, whether they're sleeping, traveling, or surfing in Hawaii. But for young Robert, terms like assets and liabilities sounded totally foreign. That's when Rich Dad sat both kids down and gave them a lesson that changed everything. Rich people buy assets. Poor and middle-class people buy liabilities, thinking they're assets. What does that even mean? Rich Dad explained it this way. An asset is something that puts money in your pocket.
A liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. Right now, you might be thinking, but isn't my house my biggest asset? That's one of the biggest misunderstandings out there. If you live in your house and are paying off a mortgage, it's actually a liability. Why? Because every month, your money goes out the door to pay your mortgage, property taxes, and maintenance. The house isn't paying you, it's costing you. Now imagine if you put that same money into a rental property. Suddenly, a tenant is paying you rent each month. That's cash coming in. That's an asset. Rich Dad made it clear. If you want to be rich, focus on finding and buying real assets. What do most middle-class people do? When payday comes, they pay their rent, car loans, credit card bills, student loans, and what's left at the end? Not much. But rich people, they buy assets like rental properties, stocks and mutual funds, intellectual property like books or patents, profitable businesses. And those assets generate income, which can then be reinvested, creating a cycle that keeps building wealth. That's why people say the rich keep getting richer, because their money is working for them 24/7. So here's the bottom line. If you can control your expenses and avoid piling up liabilities, you'll have money to invest. And once you start building assets, your money will start working for you, instead of you always working for money. The next chapter is all about why, even after learning these lessons, most people still fall into the same traps. Let's dig into that mindset next.
Chapter 3. Mind your own business. Make money for yourself, not your employer. At this point, you're probably thinking, okay, buying assets sounds great, but where's the money going to come from? Is it going to fall from the sky? Fair question, and Kiyosaki totally gets it. That's why he says, don't quit your day job, but start building your own business on the side. What does that actually mean? Simple, mind your own business. Now, don't get confused. This isn't about staying out of someone else's personal matters. Here, business means your asset portfolio. The money you're earning from work, start putting some of it to work for you, not just for your boss or company. Kiyosaki makes a clear distinction between two ideas. Profession, that 9-to-5 job where you pay your bills, buy groceries, and cover your mortgage or rent. Business, the stuff you invest in like real estate, stocks, or side hustles that will make you money in the future. Robert's poor dad would always say, find a good, secure job. But his rich dad said, build assets, even if it's while you're still working your job. Guess whose advice Robert followed? You guessed it, Rich Dad. At just 9 years old, Robert started his first business. He and his friend set up a little comic book rental stand in their garage, hiring one of his friend's siblings to run it, while Robert just collected the cash. That was his first taste of financial freedom. As an adult, Robert worked at big companies like Xerox, but what was always on his mind? Building his own business. He'd take a portion of his salary and put it into assets. And slowly, he realized something important. My most loyal employees are my dollars. They work for me 24/7, no complaints. Think about it. Your money working for you. Whether you're sleeping, on vacation, or watching a movie, money just keeps coming in. That's passive income. But where do you start? With your current paycheck, with the job you already have. You don't have to quit your job, you just have to use it wisely. The lesson is clear. Promotions and bonuses won't make you rich. That's just a short-term boost. Real, lasting wealth comes when you start building assets. So always remember, your job is not your identity. Your real business is what brings in money for you, even when you're not working.
Chapter 4. By understanding the tax code and the legal system, the rich stay one step ahead of the systems designed to rein them in. Young Robert had a favorite hero, Robin Hood, the guy who took money from the rich and gave it to the poor. Total hero vibes, justice, fairness, excitement. But when Rich Dad heard about this, he said Robin Hood was a thief. Wait, what? Robert was confused, but Rich Dad explained. That Robin Hood mindset is what led to the most dangerous tax system in history. What does that mean? When the government says, we'll take from the rich and give to the poor, sure, it sounds noble, but who does the real burden fall on? The middle class. Rich people are smart. They have knowledge, lawyers, accountants, and their biggest tool? Corporation. So what's a corporation? Rich Dad broke it down in simple words. When an ordinary person earns money, first, their taxes are taken out. They use what's left to pay bills, buy groceries, and cover the rent. But when a wealthy person earns through a corporation, first they spend business trips, dinners, phones, cars, and more. Then they pay taxes on what's left. That means less tax, more benefits. Normal person, income, taxes, what's left, expenses. Wealthy person via corporation, income, expenses, what's left, then taxes. That's what it means to master the system. Here's another magic feature of corporations: limited liability. If the business fails, your personal car, house, and jewelry are safe. Only the business money is at risk. If an average person defaults on a loan, their personal life gets turned upside down. But the wealthy, if their business fails, they're still okay. So, are wealthy people doing something wrong? Nope. They're just using the system to their advantage. Poor and middle-class folks often complain, the rich don't pay taxes. But the truth is, the wealthy never bought into the Robin Hood story. They understood reality and learned to work the system from the inside. The lesson is simple. Don't fight the system, learn it. Tax codes and legal rules might sound boring, but believe it or not, those boring things are the very keys to freedom for someone else. And it's this mindset that will take you to the next level. In the next chapter, we'll explore what real financial education means. Let's keep going.
Chapter 5. Most of us aren't given a financial education. Let's go back to the story of young Robert and his friend Mike. When they were just kids, Rich Dad gave them a rare opportunity to attend his personal business meetings. These meetings included bankers, lawyers, accountants, the real players in the money game. And that's where their true business education began. They realized that running a business isn't just about having a shop. It's about planning, understanding the legal world, and moving money smartly. Robert and Mike started picking things up fast, but there was a side effect. School started to feel boring. See, school said, study hard, get a diploma, land a job, and you'll be successful. But Rich Dad had a totally different message. Without financial literacy, success is just an illusion. And here's the truth. At school, no one teaches you about saving, investing, or how compound interest really works. The result? Today, lots of teenagers max out credit cards without understanding how interest piles up. And even adults, no matter how educated, often have no clue about retirement planning. Think about it. Even in the United States, a developed country, about 50% of people don't have any kind of retirement plan. And for those who do, studies show that 75 to 80% of those plans are barely effective. So it's clear our society never gave us the basics of handling money. But Kiyosaki says, no one will give you financial knowledge. You have to get it for yourself. So what should you do? Start educating yourself. Read books about money. Learn about investing and taxes. Robert says, any skills you didn't get in school, you need to teach yourself. Build a solid financial plan. Where's your money coming from? Where is it going? How much can you invest? How can you create passive income? Without financial knowledge, you might be able to make money, but keeping it and growing it is almost impossible. The lesson is simple. If you get top grades in school, you can become a great employee. But if you score high in financial literacy, you can become truly free.
Chapter 6. Get yourself a financial education by following 3 steps. Assess your current situation, set financial goals, and finally, build the financial intelligence to reach them. Kiyosaki says, the journey to wealth can start at any point in your life. Whether you're 20 or 40, the only real difference is this: the earlier you start, the sooner you'll see results. There was a guy who, right after college, decided to make a financial plan. First thing he did, he faced his reality head on. He asks himself, what's my income right now? What are my expenses? And realistically, what can I actually afford? That Mercedes he dreamed about, he realized it wasn't possible just yet. But in 5 years, maybe. This is exactly what Kiyosaki's wife, Kim, did too. She decided she wanted to buy a Mercedes, but only with her passive income. She held out for 4 years, saved up money from apartment rentals, and finally, she bought that Mercedes. Now you might be wondering, what's the next step? That guy decided it was time to build real financial intelligence. He learned sales skills, figured out how to handle rejection. He worked with a direct sales company just so he could get comfortable talking to people. In his free time, he read finance books, attended seminars, and met with people who were already successful. He used to say, I'm not just investing money, I'm investing in my mind. So when you start preparing yourself, first understand your reality, then set your goals, and finally invest in your own knowledge. Then wealth becomes more than a possibility. It becomes a plan.
Chapter 7. Financial intelligence and courage allows the rich to invent money in any situation. It's important to be thoughtful in your decisions, but sometimes you also need to be a little bold. One lesson Rich Dad taught Robert that stuck for life. Wealthy people aren't just smart, they're brave too. When Robert and his friend Mike would sit in on Rich Dad's business meetings, they noticed something. The people who earned the most money were the quickest and most fearless when it came to making decisions. Often, the straight-A students end up struggling financially in real life. Why? Because they never learned how to take risks. What will people think? What if I lose money? That fear keeps many people stuck in their comfort zones. They're afraid to invest in assets like stocks or real estate, and great opportunities slip right by them. Rich Dad used to say, to make money, you need more than just knowledge, you need courage. Financial intelligence means knowledge plus courage. Together, these give you the power to actually create money in your life. Wealthy people don't just wait for opportunities. They spot them, understand them, and take action right away. From the outside, it might look like they're just lucky, but in reality, they make their own luck. So if you're wondering when you'll reach financial freedom, remember, studying hard and saving money aren't enough. You enter the real game the moment you learn to take smart risks.
Chapter 8. Instead of playing it safe, try investing your money in stocks, bonds, or tax lien certificates. Let's dig a little deeper. What does it really mean to take risks? Rich Dad used to say, if you always stay in your comfort zone, your money might be safe, but it's not going to grow. Think about it. Keeping your money in a regular savings account at the bank feels secure, but is a 0.2% interest rate really going to change your life? No way. Now, there was a guy who saved a bit of money every month. He decided to make friends with risk. He started learning about stocks and invested a little in a mutual fund. It was a small start, but after 6 months, he saw his money grow 10 times faster than it would have in a savings account. Next, he discovered a new concept, tax lien certificates. Ever heard of them? This is a type of investment where you pay someone's property tax on behalf of the government, and in return, you can earn anywhere from 8% to 30% interest. Pretty cool, right? Yeah, all of this comes with some risk. Stocks can go down, real estate values can drop,
But Rich Dad always said, if you never take risks, how will you ever get big rewards? No one ever got rich by just playing it safe. But risk doesn't mean diving in without any plan. It means taking smart, educated steps after learning and thinking things through. Rich Dad taught Robert, if you want to become wealthy, you have to know how to play with money. Not with fear, but with your mind. So next time an investment opportunity comes along, don't just turn it down because there's risk involved. Ask yourself, does this risk give me a chance to earn more? If the answer is yes, that just might be your Rich Dad moment.
Chapter 9. Don't just work to earn. Working to learn is much more important. So, here's what we've learned so far. Let your money work for you. Financial intelligence is key, and making bold decisions is just as important. But now let's talk about another game-changing mindset shift, one that only truly wealthy people understand. You don't work just to earn, you work to learn. Right after college, Robert landed a secure, well-paying job. His poor dad was proud. He believed a good job was the first step to building wealth. But Robert quit after just 6 months. He joined the Marine Corps to become a pilot. His poor dad was shocked. Why would you quit such a good job? But his rich dad congratulated him. Why? Because Robert wasn't just working to make money. He was there to learn new skills. His goal was work to learn, not just to earn. Rich Dad always said, you need to know a little bit of everything if you want to make big money. If you want to be a business owner, you need to know accounting, sales, marketing, negotiation, leadership, all of it. Rich Dad had Robert and Mike work in every department of the business, the restaurant, construction sites, marketing, even front desk reservations. Why? Because he wanted them to develop the brain of a well-rounded entrepreneur. Poor Dad's mindset was, the more you study, the more degrees you get, the more valuable you become. He earned a PhD, but that degree never really increased his income. On the other hand, Rich Dad never finished 8th grade, but he had business sense that worked anywhere in the world. The moral here? If you only work for money, you'll always end up working for someone else. But if you start working to learn, one day you can build something of your own. So the next time a job or opportunity comes your way, don't just think about the salary. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? Because knowledge is your greatest asset. And the more your mind earns, the more your bank account will too.
Final summary. All right, friends, we've reached the end of our journey. Robert Kiyosaki's 6 life-changing lessons didn't just change his outlook, they changed his bank account too. Today, his estimated net worth is over $100 million. Just imagine, could you start this journey as well? Absolutely. Let's do a quick recap. Lesson 1. Wealthy people don't work for money, they make money work for them. If you only ever work a job, you're building someone else's dream. Lesson 2. Get financially educated. Learn the difference between assets and liabilities and start investing in assets. Lesson 3. Keep your day job, cut down on expenses, and build your own side business that generates income for you. Lesson 4. Understand the tax system. The more you know, the more you can save. Lesson 5. Be bold. Spot opportunities and learn how to invent money from them. Lesson 6. Work to learn, not just to earn. Don't just become an expert in one thing. Develop skills in sales, marketing, and finance. That's what makes you a true leader of tomorrow. So the real question isn't whether or not it's possible. The only question is, when will you start? Start thinking for yourself. Think like a rich dad. Use that mindset to design your own life. See you at the top. Let's build wealth, both in our minds and in our wallets.